Rimuru and Ultima goes to One Piece, Rimuru and Ultima x One Piece, by Veldanava-God.
Chapter 16. Silent Shadows. The sprawling capital of Veldoria Island was a fortress of stone and steel, its buildings rising high against the backdrop of the dense jungle. As Ultima and Rimuru carefully made their way through the busy streets, they kept their faces hidden beneath hooded cloaks. The last thing they wanted was to draw attention to themselves too soon. The nation was more fortified than they had anticipated, but that only added to the thrill of the challenge.
Rimuru's eyes darted from one corner of the street to the next, his observation haki sensing the subtle shifts in movement around them. Ultima, for once, wasn't her usual cocky, energetic self. She was fully focused, her playful nature tempered by the seriousness of their infiltration. They had a goal: to gather as much information about the ruling powers on this island before making their move. The city was bustling with life, markets overflowing with vendors selling exotic goods, and soldiers patrolled the streets in pairs, their weapons glinting under the bright sunlight. Ultima glanced at a group of soldiers passing by, her sharp eyes narrowing as she noticed the disciplined way they moved. "These guys aren't pushovers," she muttered under her breath, keeping her voice low so only Rimuru could hear. "Their presence is way too strong for ordinary grunts. They're trained." "Yeah," Rimuru replied quietly. "I can sense it too. Some of them even have haki, though none of them are at an advanced level, from what I can tell. Still, we should be careful. No need to blow our cover before we reach the palace." Ultima sighed, though her fingers twitched as if itching for a fight. "As much as I'd love to knock a few heads together." Rimuru chuckled softly. "Patience. We'll get our chance soon enough." It took them a few hours to navigate the maze-like streets and alleys of the capital. They moved with precision, never staying in one place too long, blending seamlessly with the locals. Rimuru's observation haki guided them, allowing them to avoid any unnecessary encounters with soldiers or curious onlookers. At one point, they paused in front of a grand library that overlooked a plaza. Ultima tilted her head, staring at the towering structure with mild interest. "That place looks like it might hold some valuable information. We could break in, just for fun." Rimuru smiled under his hood. "Later. First, we need to figure out the political structure of this island. The king is our main target, but we need to know who's backing him and how strong his inner circle is."
Ultima gave a playful pout but didn't argue. "Fine. Lead the way, boss." They continued their search, slowly inching closer to the heart of the city, the royal palace. After hours of silently weaving through the capital, they finally found themselves standing at the edge of the royal district. Massive walls surrounded the palace, which stood tall and imposing in the distance.
"That's where he is," Rimuru said, his voice a mere whisper. His eyes flickered as he extended his observation haki, probing the palace grounds. "The king, along with a strong group of guards. They're well trained, but nothing we can't handle." Ultima's grin widened beneath her cloak. "Finally, some fun." "Not yet," Rimuru warned. "We're just here to gather information. We'll make our move when the time is right." Yeah, I get it," Ultima huffed. "But I'm keeping count of how many of these guys I take down later." They slinked through the shadows, moving toward a nearby hill that overlooked the palace. From their vantage point, they could see the entrance to the grand structure, as well as the heavily armed guards stationed around it. "Let's get closer," Rimuru suggested, his voice barely audible as they crept along the outer walls of the palace grounds. They moved with the practiced stealth of predators stalking prey, ensuring they were never seen by the roaming guards. After a few hours of observation, Rimuru and Ultima managed to slip inside the palace grounds under the cover of nightfall. Using Rimuru's haki, they bypassed the guards without raising any alarms. The palace was massive, its towering stone walls adorned with banners displaying the crest of the Veldoria royal family. The throne room, as they discovered, was located in the central part of the palace. They approached with caution, slipping past guards and servants alike. Finally, they stood before the large double doors that led into the throne room itself. Rimuru closed his eyes and extended his observation haki again. "The king is inside, along with about 6 elite guards. They're the real deal. They've got armament and observation haki." Ultima raised an eyebrow, impressed. "That's more than I expected. Guess this king isn't as weak as we thought." Rimuru nodded. "We'll need to be careful. It's not just about strength. We don't know what kind of political influence he has or what alliances he's made with other nations. Attacking recklessly could cause problems down the line. Yeah. Let's just get this over with so we can smash some heads later, Ultima muttered, though she kept her playful smirk. Peeking through the crack in the door, they caught a glimpse of the king sitting on his throne, a regal figure with an air of authority about him. His 6 guards, clad in dark armor, stood silently at his sides. Each one exuded an aura of power, their haki palpable even from a distance. Interesting, Rimuru whispered. We'll need to take them out fast when the time comes. No playing around. Ultima grinned. I'll take that as a challenge. They watched for a while longer, silently memorizing the layout of the throne room and the movements of the guards. Finally, satisfied with what they had learned, they quietly slipped away, retreating from the palace grounds without leaving a trace. The journey back to their ship was just as silent and uneventful as their infiltration. By the time they reached the docks, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the city. The streets were quieter now, with most people either retiring for the night or gathering in taverns to drink away the day's troubles. As they boarded their ship, Ultima stretched her arms over her head, cracking her knuckles with a grin. That was almost too easy. I can't wait to break in and show those guards what real haki looks like. Rimuru leaned against the railing, gazing out at the city lights flickering in the distance. We'll wait for the perfect moment. Attacking during the night will give us the advantage. Fewer witnesses, fewer distractions. Ultima plopped down onto a nearby crate, folding her arms behind her head. Fine by me. But don't keep me waiting too long. I've got some serious pent-up energy after all that sneaking around. Rimuru chuckled, amused by her eagerness. Patience, Ultima. We'll strike when the time is right. They spent the next few hours on their ship, preparing for the assault. Rimuru laid out a rough plan, detailing how they would approach the palace again under the cover of darkness. Their goal was simple. Eliminate the king's elite guards and take control of the throne. Once they had the king in their grasp, the nation would fall under their control. Ultima sharpened her weapons, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. So, once we take out the guards, what's next? Do we leave the king alive or take him out? Rimuru thought for a moment. It depends on how cooperative he is. If he's willing to negotiate, we could use him as a puppet ruler while we control things from the shadows. If not, well, we'll deal with him accordingly. Sounds good to me, Ultima said with a wicked grin. Either way, I'm ready to have some fun. Rimuru nodded, his own excitement starting to build. Just remember, we need to be smart about this. The new world is full of unpredictable powers. If we make too much noise, we could draw attention from bigger threats. Yeah, I got it, Ultima said, though her grin never wavered. But that doesn't mean I can't enjoy myself while we're at it. Rimuru smiled. Wouldn't expect anything less. As the moon rose higher in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the ocean, they sat quietly on the deck, waiting for the right moment to strike. The city lay silent beneath them, unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon it. With their plan in place and their minds focused, Rimuru and Ultima knew that by the time the sun rose again, Veldanava-God would be theirs.